Welcome to a Tuesday, December 10th edition of the Crash the Pond podcast. And you may be a bit confused right now as to why you're hearing my voice, although most people probably know this by now that Felix was taking a bit of a hiatus for the rest of this year. So I am joined by the one and only Connor Plutko. Did I get your last? I always screw it up. I can never remember. In my head, I was like, well, shit, which one is it? Is it Plutko or Plutko? It's Plutko, right?
It is not.
Damn it! Damn it!
It's all good. I've heard that. I've heard Plutko my entire life.
Plutko, so then, right?
Yeah, Plutko. I usually just roll with it.
Yeah. So Connor from Late Arrivals over here, having a good time with us, vibing with us, and is here for a pretty momentous episode. Because Connor, let's lay it down for the people. The Ducks wore the orange helmets in Montreal, and it seems like they've retired the white helmets. That is not where you thought I was going, was it?
No, it's not. I thought you wanted me to start talking.
Nope. I was doing that for you. But what are your thoughts on the orange buckets? Let's just do it real quick.
So I don't think I think they're good. I prefer the white helmets on the road on these specific jerseys because I'm pretty sure Felix has a similar take to me on this. I'm not sure if he said it on the pod or not, but I think the roads already have so much orange on them, and then adding the orange to it on top on the helmet, I don't know. It's almost too much orange, and I know that can sound a little contradicting because I love the home look with the
home works,
but yeah, the home definitely works, but it's just different with the breakup and the white. And
yeah,
I think I would like the orange buckets better if the shoulders were white.
Yes,
but they're not, and I think the white helmet just breaks it up a little bit more. And again, that being said, I don't think the orange helmets on the road are a bad look. I would prefer the white.
Yeah. So I dig it, but that was a fun little side note that I just want to screw with everyone with. But we'll just get this off the top, though. One of the reasons that I have Connor here with me, though, is that we have a fun little thing to announce that's going to be coming at some point in 2025. Don't have it fully locked down yet, but replacing a regular episode at various points in time as the season goes along is we'll have a new thing that I think we're naming Crash the Draft. Is that what we're calling it? Something like that?
I believe so. I mean, I don't think the DocuSign has been signed yet, but
I haven't. Legal hasn't looked at it, nothing like that. But basically what we're going to be doing is a fun little thing is Connor is really into the draft, as is our good friend Patrick from the Hockey News, as is Felix. And then you have me who kind of figures it out as we go along, listens to conversations and everything like that. So what we're kind of going to do is have a little 4-person panel where I guess I'm kind of more so hosting and asking questions and kind of being the layman, and essentially having Connor, having Patrick, and having Felix debate different prospects going into the draft. And this is specifically for the draft, nothing to do with current drafted prospects, and essentially just doing a little bit of a war room style, allowing people to understand how things are going from a draft perspective, where things are going, who to look at, who to watch, and some information along the way.
Yeah, and I think just, to freshen up people a little bit more, kind of going into, once, playoffs are over, once the Ducks are eliminated, whenever that may be, once their season's over, just get people a little bit more refreshed and a little bit more prepared going into that offseason, going into that playoff time where, for all intents and purposes, I don't think we're going to be talking about playoff hockey for the Ducks this year.
Likely no.
I would love to be wrong, but I mean, how it's going, where we usually start talking about these prospects around, mid-April and everything, we kind of cover a little bit more. And I think it'll be good, to start, doing a couple episodes, in the back half of the season. I think ideally first episode I think we decided probably coming a little bit after the World Juniors are over, because that's kind of when all that talk really starts picking up. But, a couple episodes scattered throughout January, February, March, and then the end of the season there in April. I think it'll be good because as the season ebbs and flows and the Ducks are in different spots throughout the standings, I mean, who knows? They could be in the bottom again by April. They could be a little bit higher. They could be where they are right now. We just don't know. I think just that natural kind of ebbing and flowing, we should be able to hit on a lot of these guys in the first round. And so I think it'll be fun to do. And I know we've been talking about it, we've kind of been throwing something like that around here for a while, kind of kicking it around, but happy we're kind of bringing it to fruition.
So there's the announcement that we had been teasing for a little bit for the last couple days. So let's actually get into the big news, seeing as we're like 5 minutes in and have yet to talk about probably the biggest trade of the season so far. maybe not the biggest trade in the NHL, but up there. The Ducks acquired Jacob Trouba at full salary, no salary retention from the New York Rangers, for Urho Vakanainen, and then the lower of the 2 fourth-round picks that the Ducks have this year. So whether that is the Detroit Red Wings pick that they got for Robbie Fabry, or the Ducks' own 4th-round pick, whichever is lower is the way it's termed, which I can only assume means better. This is the whole weird part with the draft, is lower and higher and that whole thing. But I think in this case it means better.
See, to
That's
me,
my assumption. I think lower means later. Okay. I've always assumed just because purely numerical, lower would mean better. So that's why. But I guess we'll find out when the draft gets closer which way that ends up being. But regardless, the Ducks are giving up a 4th-round pick along with Urho Vakanainen. And Felix does this to me all the time. What was your initial reaction?
Well, let me set the scene, because I was in a little bit of a different situation than you guys. It was Friday, right? Saturday?
Yeah, Friday. Oh, Friday. You were in Cancun. You were Mr. Cancun boy. That's right.
So Thursday through Sunday, I was in Cancun. And so Friday, Cancun's 3 hours ahead, of course. So I think, when this started coming, it was, like around, I think, 2 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. Sounds about right.
I'm literally sitting at the pool with an all-inclusive pina colada in my hand. And Wi-Fi at the hotel, it's a little spotty. So I'm really only getting text messages, and I can look at the Discord. I can Twitter isn't really going through. So I'm not seeing all these initial starter tweets. I just saw something from you and Felix in our group chat, in our iMessage chat, about Trouba, and I thought someone was just making a joke. I had been making Trouba to Anaheim jokes for the last year in the Discord, and so just kind of saw everything from Cancun. A couple all-inclusive drinks in, so that made
couple penis deep.
Couple penis deep. I don't want another one for another year, but initial reaction, I know I kind of mentioned it earlier, was just kind of holy shit, this is really happening, because I had been making jokes in the Discord about Trouba to Anaheim just to kind of poke at people for literally the last year.
Yep.
So my initial first reaction was to I started laughing. I did. And then it kind of set in, and, as it started rolling in that, there's going to be more pieces involved, obviously, and seeing what our return is going to be, seeing if there was going to be something attached onto Trouba for us for taking on the $8 million. And then realizing it was, just Urho Vakanainen and a 4th for Trouba straight up. And that was really it. And that was when it just, it got confusing. It got annoying because, as I think you'll agree with, the crux of the issues, you take on $8 million. Now, granted, yes, you can't afford it, right? We obviously can afford $8 million. But you give up assets for a player who was clearly on the way out, who hasn't been good this year. And I'll kind of let you say your side a little bit. But those were my first high level things that I think we were discussing on the front as it right as it happened. Yeah,
and my initial reaction, I think I put it on Twitter even, or maybe it was Blue Sky. I don't know. I've been double posting and throwing things out there, but I was just I think I had put how is that the return? How are the Ducks not getting anything back here? It was a bit of disbelief on my front, because I think you look at the Ducks taking back that deal, and I think by all discussion, by everything with it, it felt like Trouba was a negative value asset. And so it was very, very perplexing. And I still think, so I think I've found the reasoning for how this happened and everything along those lines. But I still think it's a really bad trade on the surface of purely doing a value assessment of the deal. The Ducks did not get the proper value. I think I did a search of this. Felix and I did a very, very big deep dive on this. I think we spent an hour on this on our Patreon episode. Go check that out for kind of us working through all this live in real time a day after the trade. But Puckpedia has an interesting tool that allows you to look at salary cap and purely just looking at the money and what it would take to take on that contract, basically. Removing any concept of player value involved in it. And to take on Trouba's contract, it would just for the remainder of a year and a half, a team should get, I think it was a 15th overall pick for that. And so the question ends up being from that of, okay, well, are the Ducks getting the equivalent of a 15th overall pick value from Jacob Trouba to offset that part of it? Where I think, as much as we can say the Ducks gave up Vakanainen in fourth, for all intents and purposes, they gave up nothing. Like,
yeah,
like an extra fourth that they got for Robbie Fabry, Urho Vakanainen. Yes, picks do help, all that type of stuff, but grand scheme of things, relative nothing is what they ended up giving up for Jacob Trouba.
Right.
So the question ends up being, did they get the 15th overall pick type value from Jacob Trouba to offset not getting anything back? And the answer is just a clear no. Like, I don't know. Like, there's no way around that. Mm-hmm. And so I think, but the way that you have to start looking at this trade is from the pure value assessment vacuum. And I think when you look at a trade, you have to, at least we can evaluate it with that value and say it's a poor trade. But I think when you try to dig deeper to at least understand, right, why this happened, how it happened, why the Ducks gave that up, because I think that that's an important piece of this, of why did this happen? Not only just like a value assessment. And I think when you look at the reports around that, basically the Rangers were going to put him on waivers. And by the sounds of it, there were a bunch of teams that were going to claim him. And some of them, whether it was the Detroit Red Wings, there's been some pushback about whether they would have taken on the full contract. But their team that was interested, and they had better waiver priority than the Ducks. And so there were potentially teams that would have just taken him off of waivers, which means you're not giving up anything for him, but you can't get paid anything if you're taking a guy on waivers. You're taking on the full contract, no retention, no nothing. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to get this deal done, you have to give up something to avoid waivers. And the way that I realize it kind of equates to for me is, in some ways, like making a trade for a guy in the window between like the draft and free agency, when a guy is going to be an unrestricted free agent, where you're giving yourself maybe a 5 to 6 day exclusivity period, where you are the only team that can negotiate with them. And maybe it's a bad thing to give up a 3rd, 4th round pick in that situation. Mm-hmm. But that is essentially what this felt like, of taking out the chance, getting the player, not worrying about waivers, and giving up nothing. And so that to me is, I think, why this deal happens in that situation of the Ducks saw a player that fit what they wanted as a right-hand D. For as much as Trouba has declined, and as a player, I think is not as good as sometimes his reputation is, a little bit different than actually what his reputation is. Mm-hmm. There aren't players like him that become available very often. Like I just don't think a right-hand shot defenseman with some term that you think could help the team, that doesn't come available very often. And so there is something to just jumping, and yes, there is an opportunity cost of the cap space that's been given up, but there could be the opportunity cost of not getting this, and another right-hand D just doesn't become available, right?
Right.
And so I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or anything you wanted to add.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree with everything you just said, and kind of going off that last little bit there, I think there is something to be said. I guess from Pat Verbeek and management side of, they, whether we agree with it or not, mm-hmm. they, obviously discovered that a player that they valued and a player that they thought would better the team was available, and they weren't afraid to go out and do it and give up assets for it. Now, what they gave up, and if it made any sense, and if it didn't, and if it actually helps the team, that's another conversation. But I think that's the sliver of the thing that I like. It's a very small sliver of this that I was like, okay, like I can understand that, and I guess it's something I can. I don't know if respect's the right word. It's not the exact word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But from that aspect of it, I think that shows like something positive about Verbeek, that he'll just go like he did it with the Cutter Gauthier trade. Middle of the season, had to give up what he had to give up, wanted to part with a piece that he maybe didn't want to part with. Not maybe. I mean, and I'm not saying he didn't want to part with the 4th. He didn't want to part with Vakanainen. But just comparing these two kind of trades mm-hmm. that have now happened around this time of the year now, right? That Verbeek has done. But, but completely agree with everything you just said about the trade. It just didn't think it really made sense. Trouba just has not been good. A little bit of a misconception around what he actually is, and the positive things he actually brings. And I know we'll get into the bigger part of it, I'm sure, right now, which is the logjam this creates, because there was no Fowler added to the deal. like Friedman mentioned, and there hasn't been a corresponding move yet.
Yep, exactly. And I guess one thing I just want to add before we get to there is that I think the one thing I would say kind of to everything we said, trying to explain it, right, and say, okay, people may listen to that and be like, all right, then why do you think it's a bad deal then still? Mm-hmm. And I think that in this situation, I just wouldn't have done this deal. I would have said, okay, let him go on waivers, see if someone else takes him at full salary, right? Someone does, great. Like, it is what it is. Yes, you may have the opportunity cost, but the Ducks have a logjam on defense. They need to move Fowler anyways. Like, you deal with it. You wait, and maybe it's not great, but you wait until the next thing pops up that is something that will work better. And or the other potential is he clears waivers, right? And now you have leverage to do retention and or get paid, right? That's the other side of it. I don't even care about the salary retention side of it. I think the Ducks taking on the full $8 million makes total sense. Like, they have tons of cap space. It's not a situation where this is going to hurt them over the next year or two. But I think that if he clears waivers, then you have leverage, right? Of the Rangers valued that cap space more than anything else. Getting that $8 million is insane for them. Yep. You could have done this deal still like that and gotten paid for it, but it did take the risk, or would have taken the risk of him going on waivers and going unclaimed. And so that is personally, if I was in that situation and I was dead set on Jacob Trouba, I would have personally run that risk because I don't think that you got proper value. I think Chris Drury wins this trade just from the side of it. I think that this is, they got paid to essentially get cap space, more or less, is what happened there.
Yeah, and they essentially got paid to get cap space and got paid to be able to lock in Shesterkin.
Yeah, that too.
Which was I think the prime mover in this entire thing, right? Was they wanted to get rid of Trouba. It wasn't just working out there. Stuff's coming out that just he was disconnected from the team and everything. So they just had to get him out. And then they also, the big dog in this whole thing was that they wanted to lock down Shesterkin to, this monster deal that we just saw, yesterday or a couple days ago, whenever it was.
Yep. So, but yeah, you brought it up though, the logjam. Like, I mean, go for it. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just clear as day now. We saw it with, we saw it with the lineup that came out last night. But obviously on the back end. So with the way it currently stands, 2 of the kids have to sit no matter what. If they don't send one of them down, 2 of them have to sit. It's just like it's basic.
Or a veteran gets scratched, which maybe happens. We'll see with that. Maybe. That is thoroughly going to be tested as we get into the logjam more, but that's thoroughly going to be tested in this back-to-back because if there's a situation where one of the veterans will get scratched, it will be during this back-to-back that is coming up, where the Ducks are playing Ottawa tomorrow and they're playing Toronto on Thursday. And so this is the prime situation for that to happen. So I guess we'll see. But you touched on it that currently the Ducks have 8 defensemen with this trade. They have Cam Fowler on the left side specifically. They have Fowler, Minchikov, Zellweger, Lacombe, and granted Zellweger's been playing the opposite side, the right side from time to time, or primarily actually this season, not from time to time, and Brian Dumlin. So what is that? 5 left-hand shot defensemen, right?
Yep.
Did I count that right off the top of my head? And then on the right side now they've got Trouba, they've got Gudis, they've got Hellison, and so that gets to your 8 defensemen. And so where this ends up leaving the Ducks is that, I mean, you said it, but in the game last night, they had 4 defensemen over 30 years old. And so this is just not ideal from that situation. And that to me is the biggest hang up with this trade overall, is that we can talk about the value issue, but at the end of the day, the Ducks have the cap space. It's not going to kill them. The 4th round pick's not going to kill them. Yes, you want to get paid, you want to get proper value, but you can take some losses if it does actually help improve your team. And we'll get into that side of it with Trouba if he does or doesn't. But the logjam is the main issue that I have with this deal overall, because as of this trade happening, Cam Fowler needed to be traded at that point. And that's not necessarily a sign of what Fowler is to this team, how he's playing this year. That is regardless of that. That is because of the conversations that have happened from Elliot Friedman that Fowler wants to move on to a winner, and that the Ducks have had that conversation with him that they need to get the younger guys playing more and get them into more critical and pivotal minutes. And
they tried.
I mean, they tried moving Fowler in this trade. Yeah. But the point is though, that prior to this trade, the Ducks needed to move Fowler because they needed to get young guys in. When Fowler came back, that led to Minchikov being scratched. We haven't talked about that on this podcast even yet, but Minchikov has missed 3 straight games because since Fowler had returned into the lineup against Vegas. And so it's just not ideal from that situation. And whether it was Minchikov coming out or whether it was going to be a Jackson Lacombe or an Olin Zellweger, like there just wasn't, or even if it was Drew Hellison who was playing really well, like there wasn't an ideal situation necessarily with Fowler coming back. And so the issue I have is that not only do you still have that issue with Fowler, you've now added another thing on top of that. And Felix and I were texting about this, and I can't remember, Felix and I text so much, so I can't remember if it was in our group chat or if it was just me and him texting, but this kind of makes a Fowler trade meaningless. I don't know if meaningless is the way I would term it, but just to throw Felix under the bus slightly with this, but it does make it less meaningful from the roster perspective of now by moving Fowler, you're just back to where you were. And you just have a right-handed version instead of a left-handed version. But it just gets you back to square one.
Which I guess comparative to the Fowler situation and having Fowler be, the old veteran hang up, the contract you want to move, however you want to frame it. I guess it's better if Fowler was gone and it were to be true because it's on the right side. Because then you're not creating the logjam with, Minchikov.
Sure, but with Zellweger,
I'm not saying it's that much better.
No, but with Zellweger playing the right side and I think the interesting part is if this would have happened like maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I think it's a different conversation because Hellison hadn't come up yet. It's so funny how this stretch from Hellison has adjusted this conversation, I think, a little bit here.
Yeah, because he's came up and looked solid.
Yeah.
And now Trouba's in his place, and now he's getting scratched along with Minchikov. Obviously, I'm a little more, upset about the Minchikov aspect of it. But Hellison in his own right, I think we would agree he still deserves to be in the lineup. And that's the thing. That's as we were saying earlier in the chat, we've been saying the past couple of days to each other over text. Something has to give soon. You can't just keep scratching 2 kids until the trade deadline when Dumoulin is moved or. Maybe the plan all along is to flip Trouba at the deadline. I don't know. But you can't just do that. You can't just wait 2.5, almost 3 months and keep scratching 2 of these guys. And I think we would agree you don't want to send either of them down.
No.
I don't think they deserve to get sent down. I mean, Hellison, maybe I don't think he'd be as affected by it. But if you send Minchikov down, that isn't that.
Yeah.
And Felix said it on the bonus episode too. He doesn't I don't know if disastrous is the right word, but it just wouldn't make sense for him. He has nothing to prove at the AHL level.
And if he's not sent down, and he's getting scratched, this is a pivotal season for Minchikov's development, and the biggest thing is for him to just get playing time. And so maybe it is him getting sent down. At the end of the day, he's still he just turned 20. Him getting some games in the AHL is not a huge major issue if he's going to be playing pivotal games there, that type of stuff. But I think he's really the only person in the defense that I think could benefit from going down and just playing in the AHL. I don't think Drew Hellison really has much left to prove there. Drew Hellison is older than Pavel Minchikov. Right. Olin Zellweger had the whole season down there. Doesn't have a whole lot to prove in the AHL. I think Minchikov maybe could be the one that would benefit the most from it, but that is a soft benefit.
It's a very soft benefit. Soft is even doing a lot of heavy lifting.
He should be in the NHL. That is where he should be. And so 100%. It's frustrating because it basically is okay, you've made an issue for yourself. And I think if a trade for Fowler were to have happened on the weekend, it's a different situation where this is not the same conversation. You're back at square one where you were at, where still someone needs to get moved, but it's not as bad as it is. If you had Fowler and Dumoulin, for instance, moved on the weekend, great. Yeah. Now you're where you should be from the roster construction perspective.
Yeah,
that is realistically where the Ducks should be at.
Correct. And that trade becomes a little bit more stomachable. Now, it wouldn't make the actual, mechanics and, who was included in the trade and everything. That doesn't make it okay, but it makes the situation a lot more stomachable and a lot more palatable.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And so if this gets to the trade deadline and Fowler and Dumoulin have not or aren't moved until the deadline, this is a major issue. The longer this goes, the worse this becomes. This is a very hot situation right now that needs to be addressed because you need these guys playing. Like I said, this is a huge season for Minchikov.
Yep.
So there's that side of it. And I wanted to mention this actually on Trouba from the trade. We have yet to even talk about him as a player, but that's kind of the situation with this trade. Felix and I did a lot of it, like I said, on the bonus episode, but there's so many different angles and branches with this trade, and it is not just a simple trade evaluation. It is a roster evaluation, a player evaluation. There's so much with it. But one of the things I want to mention is for anyone talking about Trouba getting flipped, I first off, I would fully rule that out this deadline. There's just no way that he is getting flipped this deadline. I would be absolutely floored if you look at the comments from Pat Verbeek where he discusses about he brought in Trouba to help this team. This is not a trade for Ilya Lyubushkin and flip him, sign John Klingberg and flip him, Dmitry Kulikov, any of those guys. This is a trade for someone that he thinks brings something that this team needs. And so I would be absolutely floored if he is flipped at this deadline. Next deadline, I think there could potentially be a better situation, but you have to keep in mind that Jacob Trouba travels with his no trade clause. Not a no move clause, it's a no trade. And so that goes with him. So he's going to have some say over that. And one thing you have to remember with Jacob Trouba, and this is something that he highlighted a bunch over the weekend in press conferences and things like that, and it's worth highlighting, is that the Rangers tried to force him out over summer. They presented deals to him and he nixed them with his no trade clause because they were to teams that were on his no trade list. And the Rangers tried to do us a solid, and Jacob Trouba essentially said, and good on him for this, more or less said that I picked my family over my career because his wife is in residency in New York and wrapping up her final year. And so if she ends up coming out here and getting a job, I highly doubt that he is actually going to want to go cup chasing because of those exact comments of picking his family over his career. And I think that's a very honorable thing to do. And so I just wouldn't, he does not seem like someone that would want to be flipped next deadline to go chase a cup. And so it would clearly be a situation where Verbeek and him have talked, and basically it's really about getting the value back. But I just don't see that happening. My personal opinion on Jacob Trouba is that I think this is probably either this is his last contract or he's extending as a Duck. Like that's kind of what I think with this. If that holds true and his wife does get a job out here and that is something that is valuable to him and important to him. So yeah, speculation on my part there though. Fully speculation, no information, not a whole lot that I can really, no reporting here, just throwing out my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do agree. You know, I mean, just, you know, the way Verbeek talked about it, it sounds like he sees Trouba as a piece that's going to help his team moving forward. And so I would not be shocked at all if we saw Trouba extended in Anaheim. Now, that's a conversation for down the road when it happens, because, you know, if Gudas is still here, whatever, like, you know, there's a lot of different variables. This team's obviously going to look different, in 2 summers when I would assume that sort of talk is happening. But yeah, I would agree too. I don't know if it's his last contract because he is only 30 or 31 or at 30.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's going to want to keep playing.
And just that's why it's just that comment of choosing his family over his career sticks with me. Yeah. And of course that was, more like in line with him just wanting to stay in New York, I think. Yeah.
But I would certainly not rule out him extended in Anaheim. And I mean, who knows? Maybe he comes over here and has a little, revitalization to his career. We just, these are just things we don't know. So, this could be a whole other conversation in a year and a half. When we're actually talking about this potentially happening for real soon. Yeah. So.
And let's just jump into yesterday's game. Just for everyone out there, we're probably not going to touch the Minnesota game or Vegas game. We'll briefly touch on part of the Vegas game, but those were 2 bad games. I don't really have a whole lot more to say about them. There's not really a whole lot to say about them. They were 2 of the most frustrating, boring, bad games this season. So
and I didn't see either of them. I was on a flight for the Vegas game, and I just
you didn't miss anything.
Was not in front of a TV for the Minnesota game, so
did not miss anything. But last night's game, on the other hand, was intriguing for a lot of aspects. And so the lineup comes out, and Jacob Trouba is paired with Cam Fowler. And I guess let's just jump into it because of us talking about Trouba. What do you think of Jacob Trouba in his debut? What do you think of that pairing overall? I
thought it was the debut he needed to kind of, calm the I don't know if naysayers is the way I want to say, but I think overall he was solid. I think defensively he played a quiet game,
Mm-hmm.
which I think was good, based off of how he's looked defensively, especially this year with with the Rangers. But
Mm-hmm.
and then offensively, like you kind of touched on it a little bit
Mm-hmm.
very briefly. He does have these offensive qualities to him that he has always had, even back to his days in Winnipeg that,
Mm-hmm.
He can still bring from time to time. And I think, there were a couple different instances, but I think in the last minute of regulation where, the puck gets cleared out of the Duck zone, the Ducks did have possession, he clears out, he kind of takes it in the neutral zone himself.
Yep.
He kind of one arm stiff arms his way.
Yep.
I forget the Montreal defender it was, but one arm stiff arms his way coming down the right side, and then is just able to muscle it and keep control of the puck and go around the net and take it back almost to the left dot and get a pass off. And I believe that pass created a scoring chance. So
yeah, and it was in the final 30 seconds of the game also trying to win the game there. But yeah, agreed completely. And I think quiet in his own zone. I think he had a couple of shifts there where him and Fowler did get caught, but he held strong positional spots. I think that pairing him with Fowler ended up working out well because Felix and I did a dive on this on the bonus episode. But one of the things with Jacob Trouba when you dive into the micro stats is that he's really good at winning board battles. That's in his own defensive zone. That's one of the things that he's really, really good at. Where he struggles is breaking the puck out. And I think actually we saw him break the puck out pretty cleanly actually in this game, better than I expected. But that was the issue that he had at least this past year in or this season in New York, was getting the puck out of his own zone. That he would win puck battles back but not be able to exit the zone with possession as a result of that. But where he did thrive was actually in the offensive zone, creating high danger looks, getting into good spots and things like that. And we saw that in this game against Montreal. And not only that play that you mentioned comes to mind, but there was a couple of other plays where Patrick from the Hockey News, going to be doing the episodes with us and stuff like that, put out a thread about some of his plays in the game. And there was one play, I think in the second period, where he has a pinch up and he has this reputation, right, of the Trouba train, right? That's the Ducks put out the video, all that type of stuff. You and I have differing opinions slightly on it. But just a little bit. But my main issue is that when you focus on that, you ignore the actual benefits of this player and what they actually do well. And so this play specifically, he pinches up and instead of making a big hit on the forward that is trying to get the puck out, that would have allowed that forward to chip the puck up the board and get it around him and break out of the zone. Instead of that, he ends up poke checking and sliding down the wall with the puck and keeping offensive possession for the team. And so that's a clear situation. We've talked about it with Radko Gudas a bunch this season, where when you get so hit focused, you end up not making the right play. Like you just are all about making the hit and that's it. And you end up making it so a guy can take a hit to make a play. And I think Trouba, from at least what I saw, this is one game sample. We should clarify that right now. This is not, may not be who he is fully. Yes. But it seemed like he had, it seemed like he had good timing with when he should hit guys and when he should go for, or when he should go for the hit and when he should go for the puck. And he killed plays with hits, and separated men from body, which is what you actually want to do. Like when it comes down to it, what is a hit at the end of the day, right? A hit is meant to cause a turnover in possession. And so I think that if you boil it down to that, it seems like that's what he's going for. I think he can actually be a beneficial player for this team.
Yeah, it was certainly a promising start. And, like you said, small sample size, but a promising start. You mentioned the one play where he pinched up and poke checked. There were a couple really good plays with the stick I thought he made as well that, kind of killed off some chances. And, like you said as well, he made hits when he was supposed to, nothing egregious, although, I think he did kind of halfway board a guy, but,
I think that was Dumoulin.
No, Trouba did do it one time too.
He did. Okay.
Dumoulin's was bigger because he actually knocked him down. Trouba just kind of plastered him. But
got it.
Yeah, nothing was mistimed, nothing was egregious. I thought, like I said, I thought it was a good, quiet defensive debut, and I think for a guy like Trouba, that's what you want.
Yeah, and just looking at the numbers also, like he had a 73% expected goal share in that game. So was pretty good and didn't really allow a whole lot against. 0.54 expected goals against in the game. So I think overall this was a good game where he limited the chances against and was really beneficial. I mean, part of it I think is I'd be curious to look at time on ice with various defense groups and forwards, because I'd be curious if he was just on the ice with Troy Terry a bunch, and that's gonna impact your expected goal share when you're with a guy like Terry, who was just
because that was
on another level in that game.
That was vintage Cherry last night.
Like, yeah, vintage so that's gonna really help you out with generating expected goals on the ice if you're on the ice with a guy like that. But I think that he did a good job even with those guys. And one of the other parts we haven't talked about of his game in the offensive zone, and I think we're focusing on the offensive zone because I think that that's just not talked about. Everyone talks about the big hits, but he really is able to drive towards the net or move and cycle around the puck in a way that brings defenders away from where the puck is at and create more space for other guys. Instead of creating crowding issues when a forward is coming up high, he's going to cycle down low and really creates a lot of havoc as a result of it. And so the thing that really stuck out to me was his activations in the offensive zone. And that's something where Felix did a breakdown of Jacob Trouba's game or last game with the New York Rangers. And that was something you could even see in that game. I forget who, I think they were playing the Flyers in that game. And you could see him jump into soft spaces on the ice and really understand when he should jump up and not. And the main issues with his game come with speed in the defensive zone and gap control. And I think that overall against Montreal, that was not a huge issue, but that's something to keep an eye on with him.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I know this is kind of not as big of a point, but you know, I thought he took a lot of smart shots from the point yesterday. I know we feel like that, sometimes point shots there's a little too much emphasis put on them, but there were a few he did take that I thought were really smart. They were well timed. They got through. I thought they were well placed, and just all around, I'm happy with Trouba's debut. And we'll see kind of how it goes these next two games with the back-to-back and everything, and then finishing up in Toronto, which should be a decent test on Saturday to see how that goes. But and playing against a little bit stiffer of a competition too. So
let me ask you this before we jump into this game a little bit more. Let's kind of put a little bit of a bow on the Trouba trade. Do you think Trouba can help this team? Let's say Fowler gets moved, Dumoulin gets moved. You have a right side eventually of Trouba, Gudas, and Hellison, and you have a left side of Minchikov, Zellweger, Lacombe. Is that an improvement? Does that help this team over what they had going into the season with Dumoulin and Fowler?
Not massively, but I think if we get what we saw last night out of Trouba pretty consistently, then I think it's a small yes.
Yep. I would agree with that. I think he helps. I think he definitely helps. I think he brings a different element to this defense group also. I think that is actually the part of it where I think that he helps out more than anything else, and it's not a huge thing. And it's not the physicality, because obviously Gudas brings that, and Gudas, I mean, when we get into the game...
Gudas this year is another conversation. But...
Yeah, we'll get into that when we discuss this game. But yeah. I think he brings a different element, because the way that he jumps into the play to create offense... I think the only player on the Ducks that's kind of close to it is Pavel Minchikov. Felix mentioned that on the bonus episode, because Olin Zellweger's dynamic. He jumps into plays. He does so much with the puck. He's a guy that has to have the puck on his stick and really wants that to get moving. Whereas Minchikov is more so a guy that's going to jump into space and find soft spaces.
I'd even say Lacombe a bit too.
Lacombe's weird, where I feel like the best times he has from an offensive perspective is on the rush. Like, he just ends up front net somehow.
Yeah, it's not the same as it's not like your standard typical defenseman jumping in backdoor on a rush. He just somehow just bowls through the middle, and then he has the puck on a stick in front of the net. It's so weird.
But I think Trouba, it's more so a cycle game where he finds the soft space off the cycle. And I think maybe Minchikov's the closest, but it's still very different with Trouba. And so I think that's where it's interesting to me. And I also think he's probably one of the best players on the Ducks at winning board battles in the defensive zone, which can be beneficial to help getting the puck out of the zone if you pair him long-term with maybe a Pavel Minchikov or an Olin Zellweger, and he just moves the puck to them and they break it out. So I think if you did a overall look at this and just looked at the player being added, does he help? Maybe marginally so. But I think when you look at construction wise and what he brings, I do see what Pat Verbeek was thinking in some ways with this acquisition.
Yeah, I understand the vision. I think it doesn't mean I think the trade was good.
Agreed.
But I see the
All right.
hole he was trying to fill.
Now I'll put this on you. Overall trade grade for the Ducks.
Oh, just as a whole. What is that? Is it just the trade or everything else?
However you want to take that. Felix and I had this conversation on Saturday, and he said he could not separate the logjam from it because it creates the logjam.
I mean it is hard to, but
so let's say with the logjam, what's the grade?
D plus.
I'm at D minus. If they end, let's say this week they trade both Fowler and Dumoulin.
Yeah, if Fowler at least, I'll just say if at least Fowler is moved in the next week, maybe they, they obviously tried to include him in the Trouba deal. Maybe they just said, okay, if we can't include him in there, then after we get the Trouba deal done, that's our main focus this next week or two is to move Cam. Then I think I would maybe bump it up to a C minus. C.
Yeah. I would do a C if both Fowler and Dumoulin are moved soon. If it's only Fowler, then I would probably go maybe C minus D plus because you're just in the same situation from that perspective.
Yeah.
So, but, and one thing I want to clarify here on the Fowler side of it, when we're talking about him being traded, I don't think it's because of him playing poorly. Like that is not a situation. I don't think that he's checked out on this team. Like you'll see some people out there saying, I think he had a really good game against Montreal also. Like, I think he played really well. I think him playing with Trouba actually helped him out also. And so I think that this is just a situation of needing to be moved from a necessity standpoint for the Ducks and also from his side of it, getting him into a situation that helps him try to win a cup.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have anything to add to that. I completely agree.
And then, all right, overall with the game, what do you think of the game against Montreal? Anything that you want to highlight? I got some stuff that I want to talk about in the game from the game, but I want to get some of your broad takes from this game.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was fun. I thought they definitely at least earned the 1 point that they did. I think you can maybe quibble a little bit with saying whether they should have gotten the actual 2 points or not. I think there were certain times in the game where Montreal was not running over them, but I would say dominating the play. First half of the first period, I would say is the first part that sticks out. That just was.
That's I think the only part where the Ducks were not good. That to me is the only part where I think you can maybe say they were pretty even at different points, but I think that's the only spot where you could say Montreal was better.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, out of the gate, Montreal just looked a lot better. Ducks came out flat-footed. But just overall, I thought it was fine. We touched on it earlier. Troy Terry, vintage Terry performance there. It is just kind of funny how when he wants to, he can really just kind of take over. And the thing I found funny was he was doing what I've kind of dubbed the classic Terry move all night of he's in the left part of the offensive zone and he circles back and just kind of cuts in and just I think he did that like 6 times last night. He did it in OT too.
Well, he has that ability to just kind of pull the string on the shot and find different ways to get through. Like he's just so creative with being able to get shots through.
Yeah, that I think exactly what he's doing when he cuts back in every single time. He's not even looking at anybody else. You know exactly what's coming, and he gets the shot through pretty much every single time. Yeah.
And actually, speaking of Terry, and overall, my view of this game, just from a broad perspective, I thought the Ducks should have probably had 2 points in regulation. I thought they played a very outstanding game. I thought this was one of the better games that they've played in a hot minute. This was a game where we'll get into some of the meats and potatoes of the game, but I think Sam Montembeault, I wouldn't say stole this game because I think the Ducks also gave up a very soft goal with the poor Lucas Dostal play. Yep. Lucas Dostal made some nice saves also, so kind of more so a net neutral where, I mean, kind of adds up the 1.91 expected goals in all situations, and the Ducks gave up 2 goals. But from a expected goals for perspective, including overtime, the Ducks had 4.26 expected goals for in all situations. And I think at 5-on-5, if I pull this up very, very quickly, they had 2.57. So even at 5-on-5, they should have had more than 2 goals in this game. And that kind of checks out. Like you think about Troy Terry hit a post in the third period. Frank Vetrano was absolutely robbed by Sam Montembeau. Troy Terry hit another post in 3-on-3 overtime. There were a bunch of other high-quality looks, like Alex Killorn, I think, had a really good chance. There were just so many high-danger looks, things like that. I think Frank Vetrano, like, there were so many of those. And granted, you could say the same thing. Montreal had a couple breakaways that they didn't put away. But the Ducks also, I think, gave them a goal. And I think that kind of washes out the breakaway side of that. And so I think that this was a good game. And even though the Ducks didn't get the full 2 points, this was a nice bounce back after 2 really poor games. And the one criticism I think that I would have is that the Ducks are starting to look like a one-line team. Part of that, I think, is just due to injuries and not having Zegras and not having Carlson. But you want to see McTavish play better. I think that is a big concern that I'm starting to have, is that Mason McTavish, he looked better yesterday, but still having some issues there.
Better, not great, but an improvement, I would say.
Yeah. But real quick on Troy Terry, I wanted to bring this up, and I've kind of circled around all the stuff to get back to it. But on the first goal there, right?
Yeah.
One thing that stuck out to me, I don't know if you noticed this, but he's bringing that puck in on the rush, right? And he makes a really interesting pass to Fowler, if you really zoom in on it, where he kind of pushes the puck out slightly and then hooks it to get it between the triangle of the Montreal defender, and kind of does this little like sweep hook motion to make the pass and get it on the right angle to be able to hit Fowler in the perfect spot. And it's just such a like very subtle play, but one that I don't know if I've like ever, and maybe it's something that's happened a bunch, and just because that's so highlighted, I noticed it right there. But it was just something that stuck out to me of like him making just such a unique kind of little tweak to his passing angle to make sure it got through. And just such a high skilled play of like, you'll see a bunch of guys just kind of fire it into an area and hope it gets to the guy. He knew exactly what he had to do to make that pass to be right on Fowler's tape. And Fowler gets a great look and almost scores. And then Terry gets gets it into the net also.
Yeah, it was just, just a really smart play, I thought. And, very skilled, like you said. It's just kind of, it was just kind of a classic. That first goal was just kind of a classic example of the things we love about Terry, those little intangibles, those little, just really intelligent decisions, intelligent skills he makes. Like he knows how good he is. He knows the kind of, the kind of skills he possesses, and he puts them to use in more often than not the right time and the right spots, I would say. And that was, I know I've said it like twice already, but that was just, just a vintage Troy Terry game.
He should have had a hat trick in that game, and just Sam Montembeau played out of his mind to stop it.
And he was looking for it too. He was going for it.
The only real kind of negative I have in this game is, there's a couple of them, but the one I'll focus on is I did not like the Dumoulin-Gudas pairing really at all. Like,
it was not good. And it's not because Dumoulin was bad. He was just being brought down by Gudas.
And the numbers aren't horrible for that pairing, I'll say. But it just felt like there's one distinct play that comes to mind for that pairing where Dumoulin is tight to his man, and then Gudas, for whatever reason, coming back, instead of staying with his man, goes for the hit on Dumoulin's guy, and it causes all three of them to go down, and it leaves Gudas's man going to the front of the net with the puck and getting like a glorious scoring chance. And it was like a little mini 2-on-1, and it's just like, those are the exact type of plays where, like I talked about with Trouba, you pick your moment to make the hit, and you're trying to separate the man from the puck with your hit and that type of stuff. This was not only Gudas going out of his way to make a hit, he was going out of his way in a man-to-man system to hit another player's guy. Like it, and we're just seeing that more and more from Gudas, it feels. And I mean, if we were talking about who is playing the best and who deserves, I guess, to be scratched from playing poorly, I think there's no question that Radko Gudas should be the one sitting right now, not Drew Hellison, not Pavel Minchikov.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly agree too. Taking the whole captaincy thing out of it, if you strip all that away, I think Gudas is the easy choice here. That's not going to happen, in my opinion.
Agreed.
That just doesn't happen in the NHL. You don't really scratch the captain, especially the guy you just named. That just be
tell that to John Tortorella.
Yeah, Torts is just
I know,
an anomaly. But
if Cronin does it, I would respect it.
I certainly would too. But the whole Gudas thing is it's so fascinating. It's partly just him getting a little bit older, like you were saying in our text earlier today. People are speculating, could it be playing a little bit hurt? I guess he could be. But, the other part of it is, like we were discussing, it's all the mental errors he's making and just the poor decisions that weren't always there last year. And if you are playing hurt, that is one thing, but playing hurt doesn't just automatically take away your ability to make smart decisions. And it's been a little baffling this season, just kind of, the massive step back he's taken. Now we're not even halfway through the season yet. Could it be, like a McTavish thing where, it's just a bad start to the year and a bad first half, and it'll kind of turn it on. I mean, like I said before, these are just things we don't know and can't predict, but it's not a good look so far. And
I would say coming out of this, like, my big concern points right now are Mason McTavish and also Radko Gudas. Like, those are the two. Like, this is the point where, like, Mason McTavish has to turn it on. Like, the Ducks are without Carlson, without Zegras, and we'll get into the Zegras side shortly. But, like, this is his time to step up and shine, because the Ducks are quite frankly, like, Cronin gets a lot of flack, and he should. We've gone. I think Felix and I have gone over that a bunch, but he also deserves some credit for finding the Strome, Vetrano, Terry line, right? And so McTavish in some ways is lucky that line has been found, because it takes a little bit of the pressure off, because there is another line there. But the downside is that takes Terry away from him, and as a third overall pick, he needs to be the one starting to drive a line and start being the one that starts taking over. And we haven't seen that yet. We aren't seeing that, and it is starting to be a concern for me.
Yeah, it's certainly concerning so far. I was a big, McTavish defender last year. I would say I still am for the most part.
He was better last year than this year, also, to be clear.
Yeah, he certainly was better last year. This year, certainly, yeah, I definitely agree. This has not been promising at all. And is it just, like, middle, second, third year, kind of growing pains he's going through? Is he going through, a bit of a rough mental period right now where he just doesn't have the confidence? I mean, there's just certain things, there's certain parts of the situation that we won't know, but, we can really only judge what's going on the ice. And the biggest thing for me, and, I think you and Felix have brought this up, but it's almost just like plays are dying on a stick.
Yeah.
For the most part. And, he's looked a little slower. He just hasn't had that spring in his step that he had last year.
Well, and it's just, I don't know if this is a Cronin thing. It feels like he's been way more. I mean, the whole team is as a whole, and this. I don't think this is fully a Ducks thing. This is kind of a bit of a league-wide trend of going to dump and chase. I think it's a copycat league. People are copying what the Panthers did well of quote unquote hunting pucks is almost what every team is using now. The Ducks are using it, everything like that. But it almost feels like he's gotten it in his head that he has to be doing that. That's the only way. And I think he's much better when he enters the zone with the puck than dumping it in, because I don't think he's actually, I mean, maybe this is controversial. I don't think he's great at winning pucks back on a forecheck. Like, maybe this is just pure anecdotal. I've never done a dive into it at all, but I just feel like he doesn't get in and win those battles that much.
Yeah. I mean, I would certainly agree there. And, like you said, he's at his best when he's playing a good transition game. And, the whole dump and chase thing just completely negates that. Yeah. And that's frustrating. Yep. So that is certainly taking away from what he's doing. And, whether that's a him thing, whether that's a Cronin thing, we'll never know entirely. It probably is a little bit of a Cronin thing, saying that that's how he wants him to play, or that's how he wants the team to play. That's how he wants that specific line to play. But
Cronin said he views him as a Brady Tkachuk, and it's just like, nope, that doesn't feel right.
No. No, it doesn't at all.
But yeah, okay. So I think that kind of covers it for the Montreal game. Anything else?
No, that was pretty much it. Like you talked about, when it's a one-line game, there's not a whole lot of players to talk about besides, the obvious Trouba thing and but, like you said, Dostal, he had the one error, pretty glaring error, but I thought after that, he pretty quickly turned it around and made it. I think it was 2 or 3 really, really nice saves. So
yeah, the fact that
the game goes to shootout, and shootouts, shootouts are shootouts. Like, I just can't really judge on that.
The fact that he made that big of a glaring error and still almost ended up even from a GSAX perspective just goes to show that he was still solid in that game.
Right. Right.
But and then so the other two other big news things I guess to talk about is against Vegas, Zegras got hurt. Very weird play.
Yeah. Weird and non-contact, which are
Yes.
things you don't want to hear in sports injuries in any sport.
Yep, and anyone listening to this has probably heard it, but went down awkwardly where all the weight on one leg and randomly just ended up on the ice. And I guess the only piece of news that kind of we've gotten today or gotten over the last couple of days is that Frank Saravalli tweeted out, and for everyone out there that is groaning at Frank Saravalli's name, I have said this many, many times about him that opinions, not a fan of, for various different reasons that we've gone over many times. But the actual information that he has is typically on. Like, it's good. It's that type of stuff. The issue is, and Salem has now joined the conversation. The issue is when he starts adding his opinion on top of it and filtering through what you think is opinion, what you think isn't. This is all fact of Zegras is looking to get a second opinion, should have a better answer the next day or two. And Frank was very specific about it being the knee. So we don't know what it was with the knee, but this at least rules out what the speculation was that everyone thought it might be the Achilles that popped or ruptured.
Yeah, and which I guess good it's not the Achilles, but hearing you're getting a second opinion on your knee, I mean, that's never anything you want to hear in sports. I mean, I know we were talking about it earlier today, but I'm thinking and this is just kind of based off gut feel, kind of trying to read the tea leaves of the situation, but I'm thinking March.
To clarify, no information for either of us here on this. I mean,
pure speculation. Like, and if it comes out he's done for the year, would not be surprised whatsoever.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I just have zero read. It could be March. I mean, fingers crossed. The second opinion is maybe just going to be a month, but I kind of doubt it. It for sure is probably going to be longer than that. So I hope he comes back and is able to play some games. It's just, I really feel for him. Just from a personal level of going through what he went through last year, going through all of the speculation around him, transforming his games in some way where you had Chris Johnson having the report that the Ducks are actually really happy with how he's been playing. I mean, Greg Cronin said he's playing like a number one center and then shifted him to wing. That's a whole nother conversation that we've had. But like playing really well and looking really good. And even though the frustrating part is the points weren't there, but they were starting to get there, and now all of it's going to be the same thing as last year. Look at all the small amount of points that he's had, and completely missing just actually what he did to his game and how much better he was playing and overall, and that eventually those points were going to start coming in droves again, and it's just frustrating.
Yeah, I mean it's just brutal. It sucks. Like there's no real other thing to, there's no real other way to look at it or. To look at it. I mean, maybe the small part of coping in my head is that it's like the Leo Carlson injury last year, where it just looked horrible and seemed horrible, and everything seemed like that we were going to get a tweet one morning that he was out for the year, and then it turned out he only missed like 3 or 4 weeks, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, I think it was. But I mean, just like I said, reading the tea leaves doesn't sound like that's what it's going to be. I hope this is not something you want to be right about when you're speculating, but we'll when it comes out, the full diagnosis and what's going on, that'll be a whole other conversation of what is going to happen, to this team the rest of the year, how much it impacts it, and ultimately how much it'll impact where the Ducks finish this year.
I mean, I kind of think the only thing that I take away from this is I kind of doubt a trade happens. If Zegras were to be traded, I
don't know why I don't know why my mind went to Fowler trade.
No, but like if people think he would be even in the offseason, I kind of doubt that will happen. Like value is still like I think he needs a full season if he was being moved, but I hope he's not. I think that he showed that he can be very, very valuable to this team.
Yeah.
But on the good news front, it seems like Leo Carlson's going to be back soon.
Yep. Very, very, very good news. That just looked. I mean, it looked equally as bad too. For different reasons in the Zegras injury, but just it did not look encouraging. The way he left the ice, how long he was down. Wasn't sure if it was a hip thing that he hit on the post. I thought it was maybe ribs. It kind of reminded me of the Stamkos injury from way back when, where it's just leg just.
It was the leg, yeah.
He hit his hip.
hip.
Like, obviously Leo hit his hip, but I was like, I wonder if it's that sort of like, kind of same injury cause right there. But, then, obviously his helmet comes off and he smacks his head on the ice. So, are we talking about a concussion? But, just really, really promising that it looks like he is only going to miss just a small handful of games. And losing Leo and Zed, obviously, probably just the worst blow that could have happened to this team. So at least they're getting one of them back soon.
Yeah, and we don't know which game he's coming back in. We don't have full reports on when he's coming back, but he's traveling with the team. He's been skating, so we'll hopefully find out tomorrow. So
I would maybe predict he gets I would maybe predict he gets in the second game of the back-to-back. Just because 2 games back-to-back, you're playing 2 games in 48 hours. I think they'll maybe give him the rest game in Ottawa tomorrow, and then let him go against Toronto on Thursday too.
Yep. All right. So anything else you want to touch on before we get some questions?
No, I don't think so. I guess for the folks who hate the Trouba trade, I'm sorry that I manifested a little bit too hard.
It's your fault.
I did not know the full extent of my power, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, seriously, manifest something better. Manifest like ranting into the Ducks, please.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah, I mean that's been manifesting in the Discord for like years now. But so we'll start with questions from Discord. So for those of you listening to this, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/crashthepond, where if you subscribe at any of the tiers available to you, you get access to the Discord, and you can access our podcast questions channel. So Tummy Sticks Vet said, how many defensemen would you trade if you were in charge?
Well, I think we both agree two.
Already
had the conversation. I mean, like obviously at minimum 1, and it's Fowler, but that.
I mean, if I were in charge, I would be trading Gudis.
I know you would.
Actually, let me ask you this: if you were in charge, would you trade Gudis or would you trade Dumoulin in this situation that the Ducks are in?
I would trade Gudis. It's just hard for me to.
The question was if you were in charge. So
yeah. I guess yes, I would.
Okay, there we go. Molarkey said, after Jake exposed Sir Felix, I have one question. Why does Felix hate the Ducks?
Why does he hate the Ducks?
I don't know. He legit scoreboarded me this morning in our group chat.
Yeah, like, he did.
Ignored all analytics, said the Montreal won the game and deserved it because they won, and then scoreboarded me by posting us when I posted our standard like analytics stuff to like essentially show how Trouba did. Posted scoreboard as being a much better picture. So attack Felix, everyone out there.
And that is why he got kicked off the pod.
He did. We'll go with that. Heyo Deflo said, what is OG's evaluation of Greg Cronin thus far?
Well, it's certainly changed this year, quite a bit. I don't think when he was brought in, I was of the opinion that he was going to be the long-term guy. I don't think that was apparent at all. I think he was just here to, kind of be the guy to turn the rebuild in the right ship, or turn the ship of the rebuild and get it facing in the right direction. Now, everyone's going to have their own opinion on, if that's happened or not, if we are going down the right path, and still heading down a good path for the future. But like, if I had to give him a grade right now overall for me, I think I'd just say, like, I think a C is fair. I think there's little things he's done well. We talked about, being able to hear and here and there, being able to discover lines that really work together. We talk about the Toronto Terry line, but then at the same time, questionable decisions like, calling Zegras a 1C, then pushing him to the wing, or, playing McTavish at center when he should be playing wing, or vice versa, or whatever. Questionable D pairings here and there. And then it's all the, other intangible stuff that we're hearing about, how he may or may not be in the locker room, and, whether that's true or not, like, I think everyone's going to have their own opinion there, but not a huge fan. It's not like I hate him or anything, but I'm unmoved by him, I would say, if that is fair. I'm just not moved by him.
I think that's where I'm at. I think I want him to succeed, just from like what we've heard. But I think just from what I've seen so far this season, I'm not. I think unmoved is probably the correct term. I know Felix, I guess, close to being out on him. I am not there yet, but inching closer and closer, I guess, is probably the proper way to put it.
Yeah, still want to see him do well. Still willing to give him, some chances, I guess. But
Yeah.
especially lately, he has not been doing himself any favors in my mind. So
Yeah. Brief side note: you bring up McTavish not being on wing and that type of stuff. Just threw me back to maybe 2 years ago when we had Mitch Brown on, and Mitch deserves credit right now that he had said Mason McTavish seems like more of a winger to him, and Trevor Zegras is definitely a center with how they play and what they do well. So shout out Mitch
did he
there.
say that?
He did on the episode like 2 years ago. I think he said that.
Wow.
Yeah. Funny how things come around like that. Funny how Mitch knows things, and that's why we love having him on.
Yeah. Shout out Mitch, known member of the Discord too.
Yeah. Mitch. No, his beloved is a member of our Discord.
That's what it is. Yes.
Yeah. His beloved is. But let's see. Romham said, "What do the Ducks see in McTavish that solidifies him as a 2C in their eyes?"
Well, I mean, he clearly hadn't been playing as a 2C until now. Now because of injuries.
Yeah.
I think we saw it last year. Whether we think the Ducks miscast him or whether we think the Ducks miscast him in terms of the kind of player he is, or whether we think that's just a media thing. I think I think he does, and he has shown that he can be really strong offensively. Has he shown that in spades and just been consistent in that regard through his entire young NHL career so far? No, and that's showing this season. Was last year a lot more promising in that? Yes, and I think we saw that. I think we saw that in spades last year. And do I think that player is still there and it can still come out? Yes, I think it can. Mm-hmm. It's just it's hard to understand what's going on with him right now. Because he just almost looks like he's not the same decision maker he was. He's not the same, especially with the puck.
Yeah.
So they see a guy who's good in transition, I think, and hopefully they feel like he can be a solid 2C in this league or for this team going forward. So I think that's where they're at with him. I guess it's just a matter going forward of if he continues to play like this, if he continues to struggle, will the Ducks then adjust? Will Greg Cronin adjust? Will that start to show in lineup decisions and ice time and situations he's put in? I think.
I also think that I think that's how you and I view him in some ways, of transition player, that type of stuff. But I think probably what the Ducks think is what Greg Cronin said, that I think that they think he can be like a Brady Tkachuk type of deal of he can be this big physical burly winger that goes and wins board battles and is a disruptor on the forecheck. And I think it's largely just due to his size. And when he's playing well, he is a pretty good skater. And so I think that's what they see, and that's what why they have him in that role. I disagree with that assessment, but I think that's why. Our good friend Olaf said, Pat Verbeek has proven to me that he's not afraid to make deals well in advance of the trade deadline. Do you think that's a good strategy for him?
I mean, yeah, I think it is. I guess just we can talk about the Cutter Gauthier trade that happened around this time last year. We can talk about the Jacob Trouba trade. Two different trades. I think we both have two different grades and two different views of each trade. As we should there, but. Kind of like I said earlier, I think both instances where, Pat Verbeek saw a player become available that he thought could be an immediate help to his team, whether it's now, whether it's in the future, and he went for it, and he wasn't afraid to go do it. He wasn't afraid, to go give up assets for it. And like I said, the Gauthier trade, stellar trade so far. I think I would say it. The Trouba trade on paper at face value, we're not a fan of, but could change our minds here and there. So the individual trades and the mechanics of them you can quibble with, but just, the basic idea of a guy becoming available at any point in the season and you're confident to go get him no matter what. I think that is something that I'd like to see out of a GM.
I do wonder with this though, also how much of it is just situational. I don't know how much of it is intentional from Verbeek versus just
that too.
Situational with how things arise. There was a pressure point on Trouba where the Rangers wanted to move him and the waiver situation was coming up. And so I think that forced that trade. With the Gauthier situation, it was the Flyers wanting to make that deal before it started getting out public about him wanting to be traded. And so I think that there were just pressure points in both of those deals that made those trades happen. And so Maybe it is Verbeek pushing those ahead, but I think it's also just in some ways situational. And I think that's how a lot of trades kind of are, right? It takes two to tango. So Verbeek can only do so much, but it requires the situation approaching him also.
Yeah, it's not like
situation working from someone else's side.
Yeah, it's not like, you're playing old NHL GM mode and you just go to any old team and just pick a player and just start throwing offers. That's not necessarily how it works all the time. And, there's going to be nuances and situations and in all of these trades where, it is kind of easier to push along and to push ahead, like you said. But I think just, the general concept of, not being afraid to go get a guy that you personally feel is going to help your team out at any point in the year. I think that's a commendable trait.
Yep. Hey O'Tiflo said, following up on Rumham's question, what is the biggest current weakness in McTavish's game that is preventing him from blossoming into a bona fide top 6 forward?
It's the defense. I mean, I'll kind of let you take this a little bit further, but right now, at least this season, it's the decision making. It's just just plays dying on a stick, and it's still kind of a little bit of the defensive side too.
Yep, agreed. I think the play dying on a stick is the biggest issue this season. I think last season, and not as bad this year, but still an issue, is the defensive side of it. He would just float so much in the defensive zone and not really play well in his own zone. So, agreed, though. Felix has a question for us. Rank the following jerseys: the 06-07 Ducks home, the 24-25 Ducks away, the 13-14 alternate, the 05-06 alternate, and the 14 Stadium Series. I'll let you go first, then I'll give mine.
Man, why do I feel like I have to write these down?
That's why I'm staring at I'll go first because I'm staring at it right now.
Or should we here? I'll pull up the question too. What if we start at 5 being the lowest? We each give our 5, then we each give our 4, we each give our 3, 2, 1.
Okay. I don't have mine figured out right now, so I'll figure it out as I go.
I have my 5. I know which one's my 5 right away.
The Stadium Series?
Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
I have
it was fun. It was fun for that game. It was fun for that game. It's not a good jersey.
And I think at the time I'm not trying to date you here, Jake. I'm sorry, but I was
You're fine.
a junior in high school.
Yeah, thanks. I was in college.
And I was there. I went with my amazing mother. She took me, and it was great.
Very quick, I'm going to jump in. We just got a super chat, so I want to give a shout out to our good friend Chubbs. Dolphin OG, let's go. Lix is here in spirit too. Love the show. Most knowledgeable duck show in the league. Please don't ever leave me. So thank you so much, Chubbs. You're the best. So want to give that shout out for that super chat. But
there we go.
All right. Sorry, Stadium Series.
Yeah, Stadium Series. Yeah, I think at the time, like I said, I was 16, 17, so I thought it was it was cool, but as I've gotten older, it's not good. The whole chrome logo, the way the stripes don't go all the way around, they're just cut off, the way it's just so plain.
Man, I just realized I was actually out of college, so crap.
You were? Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. That was the worst. I do not own that jersey. I do not want to own it. But let's go with, so that was 5. So what's 4?
4. Okay, so it's Stadium Series gone.
I will go with. I'll go with the 05-06 alternate. I know that's controversial. I like that jersey at the time. It's just blah, right? It's just there. It's like the faux old time hockey.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those jerseys that's better. Am I delayed a little bit, by the way?
No, I don't think so.
On my screen?
I don't think so. I think you're good. Oh, a little bit, but you're fine. Okay. It's all good.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those jerseys where, I think it just holds a special place in Ducks fans' heart for whatever reason. The
506 run was fun.
It was fun. And, the biggest reason of why it's not stellar or not my favorite look is just because, especially on TV, which is how most people are seeing the jersey, it just... You can't even distinguish the purple from the black. It just looks like a black and white jersey.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of my thing. But I will say, I will switch up a little bit. I think I'm going to put the 13-14 alternate at 4, and then I'll put the 05-06 alternate at 3. Only because I think...
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, only because I think that the jersey that came the next season after the...
the 14-15 home.
Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at this and I'm trying to remember all the years. It's screwing with me, but
13-14 is the alternate version of what was the previous home jersey.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that one. I think the previous home jersey is a better version of that.
Oh, that's a
It's
bold take
it's
because
a
I
little
disagree.
not much better. I just think it's slightly cleaned and trimmed up a little bit more.
Ooh, interesting.
I was not a fan of the old numbers on that jersey.
See, I like the old numbers more. I like the gold. You also don't like the gold or the sand that much. So
Yeah,
I personally liked the numbers being the gold outline instead of the orange so much more. I thought the bigger, puffier numbers were better on that jersey. I like the collar more. So I think I have the 13-14 alternate as being third on my list. I also think that jersey, like, it's also weird, but when you make it an alternate, I have a better place in my heart for it than as a home because it's so wacky and out there that I think as an alternate it works. When it became your home and you had a white version of it, it just didn't work anymore. Like it just didn't. Where it was every single game, like it was too weird. Like it was a perfect like 10 games a season jersey.
Yeah, agreed.
So I have that third. So we have those flipped. All right, what do you have two? Because I don't know where I'm at with this. Actually, no, I think I do.
I think we're about the same here. Two, I'm going to put 06-07 Ducks home.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like I had to put that one up higher, just because of the nostalgia value for it, and I think that jersey is a little overhated.
Oh, 100%. That's
a little overhated. It's better than what was just previously the home jerseys.
100%. And here's my bold take. I actually don't. I think the 06-07 is the worst version of that jersey, though. I think I don't like the collar on the 06-07.
See, I think it looked a little bit better than the Reebok Edge version where the logo got.
So yes, but yeah, that was bad. But when the logo got back to the normal size, I think that was the superior version of that jersey was because the logo got smaller on the first Reebok Edge, and then they fixed it and made it back to how it should be as time went on.
Yeah,
and so I think that version of it with that collar and that look was just better from that jersey. And so I think 06-07 is not as good as those ones, but I think the big thing with 24-25 Ducks away, I don't like the shoulder yoke. I think you do away with the shoulder yoke. It's a much better jersey, but it's just the logo. The logo is the huge thing there that makes that one.
Yep. It's just cleaner. It's a very, like we've said before, it's a very fitting blend of the Mighty Duck and the current era.
Yeah. So it sounds like we're the same, except just with number 3 and 4 flipped.
Yes, correct. Yeah. And my 3 and 4, like it's close. It's not like it's this huge disparity here, but
for me it's not that close.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Our good friend Jack said more so for Connor, but what names intrigue you the most for this upcoming draft for where you think the Ducks might pick?
Ooh. Where are we in the standings right now?
I don't even know off the top.
Let's pull up Tankathon.
Let's just say 5th. I'm going to throw a number at you at 5th.
Oh boy. All right, I'm sorry. I chose to not do that. I'm pulling up Tankathon. I got to see.
Fine.
Holy crap, we are 5th.
Hey, there we go.
That is funny. Attaboy, Jake.
Yeah.
So 5th. Well, Matthew Schaefer's not going to be there. James Hagen's probably not going to be there. Michael Misa's not going to be there. In that spot, Porter Martone, Roger McQueen, best name in hockey, by the way, Roger McQueen. I kind of just want him for that. I'm a big Malcolm Spence guy so far. Now we're obviously still a little bit early. I'm like I can't talk super in depth about these guys. Like I probably can in March or April, but so I'm not going to do a breakdown on either of these guys. But yeah, I'll say Martone, McQueen, Malcolm Spence, Jackson Smith is a name to watch, and I think Lyndon Lakovich is a huge Pat Verbeek guy, so I would not be surprised if we hear his name a lot.
These are all just names to me right now. Like legit, I've got Schaefer, I've got Hagens, I've got Misa. I have no idea how they play, anything like that. I at least know those names. The other ones you said, nope, got nothing yet. Haven't even started.
And I don't know if this is really considered that bold of a take anymore, but I don't think Hagens is going to 1 anymore. I think it's Schaefer.
Yeah, that's kind of where the rumblings are at a bit. But yeah.
It's kind of I think Matthew Schaefer is going to be the Uri Slafkovsky to James Hagens' Shane Wright.
Yeah. All right. Shake and Wing said, do you think Verbeek will be the GM of this team when they're competitive for a cup?
Well, it's when do you think they're going to be competitive for a cup?
I think so. I think the Samuelis are patient, and I don't think they'll fire him unless it really goes downhill. But there's so much talent in this system that I think he will be.
so much talent that was his doing as well.
Yep.
So yeah, I'd be shocked if Verbeek is gone in say 3, 4, or 5 years when maybe hopefully they are competing for Cup. But I mean who knows? We've seen crazier stuff before, so who knows?
Yep. Salami Sandwich said, if Zegras' injury is long term, what do you think the outcome will be? Will he get an extension, or will Verbeek move on next season while he's still in RFA? Well, I mean, he's not an RFA this upcoming summer, so there's another year on his contract.
Yeah.
So there's time there. I mean, I don't think he's getting moved this summer. I think he'll go into next year, play all of next year. And quite frankly, if the Ducks are happy with him, like, I don't think an extension will happen because I don't think Zegras' side should want that. I think that he should want to have a full year under his belt to be able to get as big of a contract as possible. So I think he will be a Duck next year. After that, I don't have any goddamn clue, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, especially if, let's just say our worst fears are realized and he is out for the rest of the season. That's now 2 seasons in a row that have been, just really plagued and hemmed by injuries. And it's certainly going to make the conversation going into next year interesting of what's going to happen. But, like I said, I would agree. I don't think anything is coming with him this summer.
Yeah.
Certainly not a trade. And then even more certainly not an extension.
Yep. Agreed. And so, all right, let's get to a few questions from Blue Sky and Twitter, and then Twitch, YouTube. We'll get to a few of yours, and then we'll get on out of here. So, Random Hockey Thoughts on Blue Sky said, what are your thoughts on Verbeek saying, we've improved a ton, and I'm really happy with things are going. I wish I could use some of his optimism. I mean, I don't disagree that I think they've improved.
Yep.
Like,
yep. I mean, it's certainly an improvement on last year.
Like, yeah, like, I don't think it's that out there, and I think that means he's watching and seeing what's happening there. And then, all right, and then let's get to this question from Trevor Zebra says, do you think Seneca will be on the Ducks next year for the full 82 games?
Ooh.
Bold take time.
Man, Beckett Seneca, by the way, good for him. Shout out to Beckett Seneca getting added to the Team Canada World Junior roster after initially getting snubbed from it, so good for him. And absolutely disgusting goal he scored the other night. I'm gonna go fun. Yes, he is.
Yep, I'm in that boat.
Yeah, I would just like to see it.
Yep, agreed. All right, and now we're gonna get to Twitch and YouTube. So for those of you listening on your favorite podcast services, you can find us at twitch.tv/crashbond, where you can subscribe to our channel for free. If you have Amazon Prime, you can be just like Kem Pafu, who added a note, said, could have had Yurchek or Line, but instead got Trouba. Dang it. This is your fault, Connor. You should have manifested those ones instead. That's me adding that part to it.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Throwing you under the bus a little bit. But you can subscribe just like our good friend Tony Kem Pafu there. You get emotes in the chat, supposed to have badges next to your name, and it's free to you if you have Amazon Prime. And then, or you can find us at YouTube, youtube.com/crashthepond, where you can subscribe to our channel, like our videos, helps out more than you can imagine. Let's get a little like spike going there if you're watching on YouTube and like the video. But got a question there right now from Sparkman, said, would you guys give Galamov a shot? 12th in KHL scoring, Ducks still have his rights.
I've not even thought about him in like 3 years.
Yeah, is it bad that I just don't care? Like I think
at the point where I'm at the point where I don't care. Like
whatever. Like if he comes over, great. If he doesn't, I don't know. There are players in
3 years ago, right? 4 years ago.
There are players in the system that I'm more excited about in that kind of middle weird area. Are they coming? And mainly Ian Moore. Moore is the one that I'm like, okay, what's happening here? Where is this going? But while we wait for some questions to come in, let's get to some shit show questions very quickly, which I'm sure some people threw in here. So, Hey OD Flow said, best moment / experience of your Cancun trip.
Ooh, well, I mean, it was just very relaxing, and I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate I got to go. It was my girlfriend's incentive trip for her work, her whole Orange County team. With what they do, absolutely crushed it this year. So they got to go, and she was able to get a +1, so she brought me. So shout out to her.
There you go.
Very thankful for that. So yeah, that just in of itself was very nice. But yeah, I mean, just getting to see that I know I sent you guys some pictures, but getting to see just that insane color water and how warm
Yeah,
it was, and
looks so nice.
way different feeling than jumping in the beaches over here in Orange County. But
Yep.
yeah, it was good. I mean, just having to, being able to chill for a couple days in a tropical area in December, just having the relaxation. It was good. I did.
Yep.
Ooh, we did take a boat to one of the islands out there,
Mm-hmm.
Isla de Mujeres, which is like right across from Cancun. It's like a 20-minute ferry ride, and we got to see ruins of an ancient Mayan temple, like right up close.
Ooh,
You got to like touch it, so that was pretty cool.
that's wild.
Yeah.
Maddie Gibbons asked us in the YouTube chat, said, what do you think about Gauthier consistently being put in the bottom 6?
I mean, I think the line. I mean, I think Gauthier's look good, and I think him playing with Brett Leeson right now is a good thing. I'm not really
Well,
too.
last night it was he wasn't with Leeson. Last night it was him with Lundestrom and McGinn.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant I
Yeah.
meant Lundestrom. I think
Oh,
he. I
got it,
think
got
I
it, got
think
it.
he's found some nice little chemistry with Lundestrom right there. I mean, like I know you and I and Felix have talked about this before. We're not always so hung up on like the exact ordering of the lines,
Yeah,
and especially now, just with the injuries with
yeah,
Carlson and Zegras being out. But I think he's fine where he's at right now. Would it? I think ideally, what I like to see him with, on a fully healthy squad, like to see him with Leo, or like to see him with Zegras. I think yes, I would. But I think for where the Ducks have right now and who they have at their disposal, in the forward group to them, I'm fine with it. I'm not like upset or necessarily or thrilled with it either.
yeah. I was fine with it in the beginning. Like I disagreed with it, but like we've talked about like the quote unquote of wanting to build fourth line habits, and it's like okay, like he did that. He's played well, and then Gauthier, Lundstrom, and Leeson as a line have actually played well together. If you look at some of the underlying numbers, but I think at a certain point, like Gauthier does need to get back up into the
Yeah.
top 6 or playing with more skilled players to be able to really more take advantage of his shot, everything like that can get him into more dangerous looks. And I would have liked to have seen him stick with Mason McTavish and Alex Killorn, and that line stayed together from the Minnesota game. I understand Greg Cronin was probably trying to shift things up because of the Minnesota game being poor and that line being poor overall. But I would have liked to see that be given more runway there overall. I'm wondering if the Leeson part of it being moved up, as Matty Gibbons mentions, is more so about a handedness portion of it, of wanting, because I think Killorn's left-hand shot, as is Gauthier, so wanting Killorn on his proper side, and then you have Leeson on his right side. And so it gets, whether it's Gauthier or Killorn playing on both of them playing on their strong side, could be the reason for that. Maybe there was some thought process there, but overall, like I think Cutter Gauthier deserves a lot of praise. I think we didn't talk about it in the Montreal game, but Cutter Gauthier has been really, really good this year. Like removing goals, removing points, removing any of that from this conversation, because everyone's just going to look at that and say, how can you say he's been really good? He's not leading rookies in points. He's probably underperforming what people may have expected from a goal scoring pace from him with the hype coming in. But you look at the way he's playing, the underlying metrics, like he is outperforming my expectations for him this season, because like Felix did a lot of deep dives on his play at Boston College last year. He seemed like he was just a spam shot player. And I feel like he's added a whole lot of other elements to his game this season. And I mean, Cronin, I've mentioned this before, Cronin does deserve credit for that. Like one of the calling cards for Greg Cronin is development. And it seems like he's really found that with Cutter Gauthier.
Yeah, I would agree. You mentioned about Felix and doing those breakdowns on Gauthier at BC last year. It was a little bit of him, just spamming as many shots as he could, and kind of floating around a little bit, not always looking as engaged. And the reason for that, who knows? Maybe it was a situation if he was too good, he wasn't always going 100%. He didn't feel the need to, because he really didn't have to, I guess. But at the NHL level now, I mean, he's constantly churning out there, constantly flying. He's fighting, not literally, obviously, but he's engaging. He's willing to go and battle for the puck, and go and chase it, go and get it too, and trying defensively to do what he can as well. But I'm happy with his engagement overall. He's always involved or trying to be involved, and Um, yeah, I don't have too many negative things to say about it, I would say.
Yep. All right. Let's blitz through these remaining shit show questions, then
Mm.
we'll get on out of here.
All right.
Lou said, "Go to holiday drink."
Ooh. Every Christmas Eve, I make myself a White Russian or two.
Ooh, I've found a new one that I found on TikTok last year. It's so I didn't really know about sidecars, the cocktail, until last year, and this is not a full sidecar because it's with rum, but
Mhm.
it's a sidecar with rum and like nutmeg, cinnamon, sugar on the rim, and
Ooh.
I use a pineapple rum, tiki or pineapple. What was it? Cutwater's rum.
Mm.
It's so good, so
Ooh.
good. So
Yeah. Yeah, that
that's
too.
me.
And I mean, it is hard to beat, wintertime nice and cold, a nice old fashioned too.
Oh yeah. Yep, exactly. All right. Our good friend Jack said, most painful moment in your guys' Angels and Ducks fandom.
Do I have to say the Angels one?
What's your Angels one?
Um, oh boy, losing to the Red Sox in '04 or in 2009 against the Yankees when
Yeah.
Sean Higgins and Eric Ibar dropped or miscommunicated, I guess, on the
The
pop fly that
and the
eventually ruined the series.
Bobby Abreu no catch also.
That
Like
too,
yeah.
or the AJ Przinsky thing in '06 too.
Yeah. That
That
one
sucked.
doesn't it's weird. That one doesn't come to mind that much for me when I think about painful Angels memories. But yeah, I would probably say '09. '09 against the Yankees and then Ducks.
Losing to Chicago for sure.
Yeah, probably
It sucked.
losing to
I've
Chicago.
Yeah.
Second for me is 2016 losing to 2016 losing to Nashville. I've said this a bunch. I think the 2016 was actually superior to the 2015 team. They just got
Really?
hurt and injured at the wrong time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Like
yeah. That was the year of the Manson injury, right?
Manson got caught in the head by Philip Forsberg and got
And
injured in the
Fowler was
first
hurt
round.
too, wasn't it? Was Fowler or was that 20? What year am I thinking of?
Fowler
What
may
year?
have been hurt. I don't fully remember though Fowler being hurt, but also you had
Right, right,
David Perron was hurt going into the playoffs
right.
and barely played, looked out, and then Ricard Raquel had appendicitis, and
Oh,
that was when Ricard Raquel was looking like a legit second line center playing with Corey Perry,
oh
and then he
God,
had appendicitis.
he's just brought back things I haven't even thought about. Ricardo
Yeah,
Raquel playing center.
that was the team with
Man,
Sean Horkoff. That was I think the best. I
Mike
actually
Santorelli, like
Like
yeah,
I genuinely think that team, like in 2016, the way they were playing at various points in the year was the most dominant of that era. And
yeah,
it's just that's how the playoffs work. You get hurt at the wrong time,
mm,
guys come out, and you just lose a series because of it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, for me, number one is losing to Chicago. Um,
yeah.
in 2015. I mean, I was just when Mapileski scored that goal in game
I was
5.
there.
I thought we were winning it all.
Yeah,
I'm just like we're winning the damn cup. Like there was no way it wasn't happening to me. And yeah, so that was pretty brutal. I have always held that losing to Chicago in 2015 hurt way more than losing to LA the year before.
for me,
E-
no,
even
no. That
taking into even
so
taking into account the Kings thing, and I
here
hate the Kings. I just
here's
thought that
the
was such a good team, and we should have won the cup that year.
here's the reason why the LA one actually might hurt me more. I was
Mhm.
at Game 6 in LA, and
Oh God.
game 7 was my grad school graduation. I remember
Oh,
getting in the car after graduation, like Monica and I getting in the car, putting the game on, and having to listen to that first period and just seeing it go. And it was just miserable experience being at like a dinner for my grad school graduation,
oh
and
God.
that. So from a pain memory, I think
Yeah.
that Kings one was probably worse.
Yeah. Yeah. That was tough.
All right. And then this is fully for you. Tummy Stick Vet said, rank your top 5 Metallica songs.
Oh, jeez. Creeping Death number 1. Number 2, Wherever I May Roam. Number 3, I'll go Welcome Home Sanitarium. 4, I will go. Oh boy, Harvester of Sorrow, and number 5. Oh boy, I'll say Orion.
Yep. I got nothing.
Any
I,
thoughts?
I tuned out. But all right. So that I think is going to do it for us tonight. So thank you, Connor, so much for joining me tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
You will see Connor on the show again in the future, maybe as a fill-in, definitely for Crash the Draft when we do that. Keep your eyes peeled though on my Twitter account and my Blue Sky account. Using both, trying to use Blue Sky more, but bouncing back and forth a little bit. But keep an eye out there to really see if there's going to be an episode next week. As you probably heard, Felix is not going to be doing something until I think December 30th. So we may have a show next week, may not. We'll probably take the week of Christmas off. So keep your eyes peeled for whether an episode's happening next week. But you can support us over by, what does Felix do for the show spiel? Find us at youtube.com/crashspawn. You can find us at twitch.tv/crashthepond. Go to our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/crashthepond, where we have 2 different tiers. One at the $2 tier where you get access to our Discord. Honestly, with all the discussion that I just had about Twitter and Blue Sky, those have been fully replaced for me personally for engagement with our Discord. Like that is just where I go to chat hockey. That's where I go for that. I don't really use Twitter and Discord, I don't use Twitter and Blue Sky for that necessarily. I use it to be able to interact with some people, but also find information, put out information about the show, put out opinions, that type of stuff. But the real interactions that are really, really fun happen in the Discord. So go check that out. And then at the $7.50 tier, you get access to 2 bonus episodes a month. Felix and I just did one, and we'll do another one later this month. And Felix has been putting out really good videos, breaking down different players, different games. He's going through some crazy school stuff right now, so probably not stuff coming out right now. But as the season picks back up in the new year, there will be more of those coming for you all. So, and then also if you want to support us, you can leave a rating or review on Spotify and on an Apple Podcast. So I think that's the whole spiel. So thank you all for listening.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, see ya.